On January 15, 1919, the north end of Boston, Massachusetts became the scene of one of the most surreal disasters in American history. It wasn't a fire or storm, but something more mundane and unexpected: molasses. Yes, molasses, the thick, sweet syrup that's a staple in kitchens worldwide, was the bad guy here. It all began on a surprisingly warm afternoon with a massive storage tank owned by the Purity Distilling Company and filled to the brim with over 2.3 million gallons of molasses. This tank was stored at the heart of a densely populated area, a ticking time bomb that few recognized until it was too late. On that fateful day, as the temperature soared unusually high, the tank ruptured. The resulting explosion sent a wall of molasses that, at its peak, towered 25 feet high and traveled at an astonishing speed of 35 miles per hour. This was not a slow ooze, but a violent eruption that sent a viscous brown torrent sweeping through the streets of Boston with unstoppable force. The area around the tank was bustling with life. Workers at the nearby commercial docks, families in their homes, children playing in the streets. In an instant, the wave of molasses engulfed everything in its path. Buildings were ripped from their foundations. People, cars, and animals were swept away. The force was so powerful that it derailed a train, crumpled the steel supports of an elevated track, and obliterated entire structures, leaving a scene of apocalyptic devastation in its wake. In all, 21 lives were lost to the flood, with over 150 injured. Many of the victims were workers at the docks or passers-by caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Rescue and recovery efforts were hampered by the molasses itself, which hindered movement and made the search for survivors all the more challenging. The area looked as if it had been bombed, with wreckage strewn everywhere and molasses coating every surface. It was a scene of apocalyptic proportions. The sticky mess infiltrated homes, businesses, and even the subway. In the immediate wake of the flood, a massive cleanup operation began. Firefighters, police, and volunteers labored tirelessly, using salt water from a fireboat to dissolve the molasses and wash it away. Despite their efforts, it took weeks to clean the streets, months for the harbor to be cleared, and even longer for the residents to rid themselves of the sticky residue that had found its way into every nook and cranny. Following the devastation of the Great Molasses Flood, the burning question on everyone's mind was who or what was to blame for this unprecedented disaster. This led to one of the most complex legal battles of the time. The Purity Distilling Company, a subsidiary of United States Industrial Alcohol, owned the ill-fated molasses tank. Immediately after the disaster, scrutiny fell heavily upon the company, with allegations of negligence and corner-cutting in the tank's construction and maintenance. Reports emerged that the tank had been hastily constructed during World War I to meet the demand for industrial alcohol, used both in munitions and in manufacturing. Further investigations revealed a shocking lack of safety tests and a disregard for the warning signs of structural failure, such as leaks and groans heard by residents near the tank. Children even used to collect leaking molasses for fun. The legal fallout was monumental. Over 100 lawsuits were filed against USIA, consolidating into a landmark class action case, marking one of the first major class action suits in Massachusetts. This was a legal labyrinth of testimonies, expert assessments, and cross-examinations, delving into the minutiae of tank construction and the physics of molasses. After a grueling 6-year battle, USIA was found liable for the disaster. The court's decision was historic, resulting in USIA paying out a significant sum in damages to the victims and their families, a gesture of compensation for the immense suffering and loss caused by the flood. One of the most significant outcomes of this disaster was the implementation of stricter engineering standards nationwide. Engineers and architects were now required to submit detailed plans and undergo thorough inspections and approvals before construction could commence. This ensured that structures, especially those posing potential risks to public safety, were built to withstand various stressors and prevent avoidable catastrophes. Moreover, the flood spurred the development of new regulations governing the storage of volatile substances. Industrial tanks, particularly those containing hazardous materials, were subject to rigorous inspection routines. The aim was to identify and rectify potential weaknesses before they could lead to disaster, ensuring that the tragedy of the molasses flood would not be repeated. The Great Molasses Flood also had a profound impact on public consciousness, serving as a grim reminder of the importance of prioritizing safety over economic gains. It became a case study in engineering courses and safety training programs, taught as a lesson in the vital role of ethical considerations in engineering and construction practices. Today, the legacy of the Great Molasses Flood is remembered not only as one of the most unusual industrial accidents in history, but as a turning point that significantly improved the safety and well-being of workers and communities. It stands as a testament to the fact that from tragedy can come progress, ensuring that lives lost were not in vain. The Great Molasses Flood's impact was felt not just in the regulations it prompted or the buildings it destroyed, but in the hearts of a community that vowed to remember those lost and learn from the tragedy. The flood remains as a poignant reminder of the costs of negligence and the enduring strength of a community determined to emerge stronger from its trials.